Hello, good evening. Can everyone hear and see me? First question. So I can see some people. I can see Phil Jolly. I can see Craig, Andrew Jones. Hi, Andrew. Thank you for that. I have a slight delay on my chat. Um, so there's probably 30, 45 seconds delay. I mean, it's a huge delay realistically. So sound quality is okay because I can't hear this. Obviously, I can just hear myself. I've got my computer underneath so I can see the chat. So that's why I'll be looking down a little bit tonight. So let's have a look who's in the room. Hi, Jeff. Good to see you. Dom, good to see you. Mark from Montana. Hello, Mark. Really loving your videos at the moment, mate. If you've not seen Mark's channel, go and check him out. Does lots of First World War stuff, likes an albatross or two. Captain Charlemagne, hello, nice to see you. Aberration, hello, nice to see you. We will give people a minute or two to join, and I'm just going to look back in the chat and see who else is there. James, hi James, to Boulder Go Model Works. Gary, Gremlins Modeling Mayhem. I think that it's sort of the usual suspects. Oh, World War II scale models, Dave. Hi, Dave. Nice to see you. We'll get chatting in a minute. We'll give people... Oh, George is there. Hi, George. George364. I think that covers everyone I can see in the chat for now. I can't see how many people are watching, so I don't know whether you guys can or not. So this is the last day of the 10K takeover. 2 weeks, and in that 2 weeks, we've got another 300 subscribers. So the channel's done really, really well over the last couple of weeks. Well, it did quite well running up to that as well. So the last month has been phenomenal. And I think in no small part, it's because of the videos that you guys chose. So it has been a really good couple of weeks. So thank you very, very much for that. I think wooden model kits has also played a feature, and that's given me a little bit of food for thought. But tonight, we are focusing on group builds, and we're going to sort of decide between us what the second group build will be this year and how long it'll run for. Now, I've already made the decision on what one of them will be, and I'll share that with you in a moment. And then I'm going to ask you for some inspiration, and I'll give you some sort of ideas to give you some thoughts. Hopefully, after yesterday's table talk, some of you have already been having a think about it. Now, I don't want to take the wind out of anyone's sails, but if you've been thinking ships, it's already covered. Possibly, probably, maybe. Depends on what you want to do. You'll find out in a moment. Right. I'm going to catch up with the chat periodically. So I'll have a look. And if there's anything that I want to talk about, we'll pop it up on the screen. But the basic plan is I will put it out there. What do you want to do? We'll have a look at what people's ideas are. And then I'll ask people which idea do they think is the one they'd like to run with. We're likely to get several responses to that, and I'll try and whittle it down. And we're going to try our best to decide what we're going to do by the end of the night. Now, I've got an hour and a half here, so it depends how long it takes. I mean, you might all go, yeah, that's a great idea, and we'll be done in 20 minutes. Although somehow I suspect that won't be the case. Right, let's see who else have we got there. Richard Bennett, nice to see you. Just going back a little bit. Joe, hi Joe, good to see you, buddy. John C, hi John. Okay, I think. And Colin's just joined. Hi, Colin. Good to see you. Right. So let's just start by talking about my idea for the first group build. So I've thought long and hard about this, and the reason why I want to do this particular group build is because several group builds, something like this has been suggested, and people have gone, "You're having a laugh. You can't do that." So our first group build is going to start. It's going to kick off on New Year's Day, 1st of January, and it's going to run until middle of December. So you're going to have all year to do it, which gives you plenty of time. And the group build is going to be things that float. So that could be, quite obviously, a ship or a boat or a fisherman in a dinghy or a VW Beetle stranded in a stream or a cat in a bucket diorama. It could be absolutely anything you want. Things that float. There's loads of people I know want to build ships. And even with a year, I know there's people thinking, no, I couldn't build a ship in a year. But the only rule, or two rules to it, is one, you have to finish the build within that year. And two, it has to be related to something that floats. So you can run your imagination as you want on that. So you don't have to start the build on the 1st of January. So you can go and get a Shelf Queen, and you know that ship you've always wanted to finish, and now you've got an excuse to do it. Or you can start something new, or you can do a 1/700 one and then do another one and have two entries. Doesn't matter, as long as it's got some obvious link to the theme, something that floats, and you've finished it within 2025. So you can't go and blow some dust off one you did 2 years ago and go, there you go, that's my entry. So that's going to be our first group build, and I'm going to run it all year, and we'll manage it probably through Table Talk rather than doing special videos and stuff. But we might do one or two live streams and catch up on people. So that's the first theme. I'm now going to catch up with chat and see what the response is to that. So, right, let me just go backwards a little bit. So lots of people saying hello to each other. 24, thank you, Craig. I'm guessing that's, then 26. So this is 29. So this is people watching. Thank you very much. 300, that's not 300 people watching though, is it, Captain? No. Right, okay, let's go down. Did the takeover involve any firing squads? Nothing violent, I trust. No, it wasn't revolutionary, Mark from Montana. No revolutions involved. Right, we've got more hellos. Right, John C. Got his HM Sherborne kit. There's mine. You can see I've got first planking done, and we've got the keel and prow on. And we're about to start do the second planking on her. So she's going really well. So I hope you're going to build along, John. More hellos. Just catching up with everyone. 33 watching, 17 likes. That's good. Right, recovered my hearing. Okay. Oh, I've still got jaw pain from having my tooth extraction, and I think my ear infection's coming back. So it's been a bit miserable today. Okay. So, okay, I think we're at the point where I announced what the first one was. So, love the idea, John C. Thank you. Things that float. How about a submarine? Well, yeah, it does. It does float. It is designed to float. And then they have to force it to submerge. So, yeah. Jason, you could give me a wide range of stuff from ships to planes and more things. Yeah, absolutely. So, a flying boat, absolutely, that floats. You know, a rubber duck floats, whatever you want. A balloon, it depends. As long as you model it so it's clear that it's something that floats. So is it a balloon in a stream or what is it? It's got to be clearly either floating or connected with something floating. So you could have a boat on a trailer being pulled by a car. It's still something that floats. Yeah, does that make sense? So you could be I suppose the connection can be as loose as you like, as long as it's still there. The idea of having it, rather than saying, right, we're doing a ship group build, is to allow your creative juices to go. And if you really don't like building ships, that's fine. But you could do a Schwimmwagen or the new Italeri 135 duck, or you know, something like that. Or you could spray it yellow and do it as one of the Liverpool ones in Liverpool Dock. You can do whatever you like, as long as it's obvious that it's connected to something that floats. So you know, a balloon, depends on how you model it, Jeff, I would think. I just finished something that floats. Well, that doesn't count because you finished it in 2024, George. Sorry. So let's see, what else have we got in the middle of the wide range of pot? Yeah, that's the idea. So what I want from you guys is a second group build, but something like that. I mean, someone suggested in the comments on Table Talk yesterday, what about winter? I mean, great, because that could be a tank in winter camouflage, or it could be a figure in the snow, or it could be a model of kids making a snowman. That's how I want it to be, something fairly loose, rather than we say, let's all go and build a Lancaster bomber or something like that. Yeah. So have a think for a moment before you start putting your ideas in. I'll perhaps give you a shout and say, right, put your ideas in now, and then people can see them all coming in together. Well, it is what it is, Dom, you know. Did I just see the door go? None of my figures yet, but painted a blue. Okay, just reading some of these. Phil, that sounds great. I have a few ship models in my stash, and we'll go along with it. And to be honest, if you're going to build the Sherborne, you'll get that finished next year as well. So you know, you could be building your first ever wooden kit and get that on there. So as usual, I should make this clear, shouldn't I? As usual, we will do a showcase at the end of everyone's models, which, you know, I think people really enjoy that, and I enjoy it because I like seeing what you guys have done. So, you know, there's lots of modelers out there that have so many ideas. And when we did the commercial vehicle one, it was really interesting that there was several people did the same model, but they all did it slightly differently. So yeah, really good. And when we did the B17, there was such a wide variety, but by casting the net as wide as we are with this, you know, it's going to be spectacular. And I think it speaks to everyone. So one way or another, doesn't matter what you like building, you'll find something. Right, let me have that. We've got in for a sub, space capsule landing in the ocean. Yeah, brilliant. What do you think of the Yamato by border for a beginner? I would go with the Tamiya one for the beginner. It'll go together easier, and probably a little bit less challenging. I mean, it depends on what you mean by beginner. Do you mean I've been building aircraft models for 30 years and now I thought I'd try a ship? In which case you're probably okay. Or are you saying I've never built a model before and I'm going to go for that? In which case that'll probably be your first and last model, because it'll just put you off, is what I reckon. Right. Okay, just catching up on some chat. Something through space technically counts since it floats. No, my intention is on water. So yeah, I know what you're saying, and you're making a really good point because I hadn't thought about it. But no, the intent is something that floats on water. Um, so so the idea of a space capsule in the ocean, yeah, not a bad idea actually. Great diorama of it splash landing and what have you. Or you could have a helicopter coming in to rescue it or something like that. That's a great idea, but something in space, not so much. Yeah, seaplanes count absolutely, and yeah, Catalina, that would be nice to see. Is it the Revel one? Oh, okay, yeah. Well, from now on, they'll be every other week. The Sherborne builds, and they might be a bit shorter than an hour. But I am going to show you every single plant going on, so it should be helpful. Right, I think I am caught up. HMS Nelson in 1/200. Well, but I'd love to see that if that's what you managed to get done in a year. So, right, there we go. That's my thoughts. We're going to start off with something that floats. Then, when we do the second one, will depend on what we're doing and how long. And obviously, I'm going to try and want to get involved in that. And as I enter into next year, I'm going to have a few projects already on the go. And quite frankly, that could be my thing that floats, couldn't it? You know, my Sherborne build for absolute beginners. That could be my thing that floats. I don't think we will finish Scharnhorst during 2025. I think that'll go into 2026, if I'm honest. I imagine it'll complete in 2026. And I don't know what else I'm going to do. I've got the Eagle in plan, and I might squeeze something in before it because I'm just not quite feeling the Eagle yet. So don't know, but I have a number of seaplanes as well. So there we go. You guys can have a think about that. You've got until the start of next year to think about that. Get a kit if you need to. Plan your dioramas, whatever. But the big question is, what's the second thing we're going to build? So hopefully you've been thinking about it. You've got some ideas. So now you can start putting them into the chat so I don't miss them. So what we're looking for is a theme that gives people a little bit of broad base. So we're not limiting ourselves to a scale, and we're not limiting ourselves to a certain type of vehicle. So something that allows people to be a little bit creative, like winter or blue or whatever. But you know, if you all actually say, but we really want to build a Spitfire, then we'll do a Spitfire group build. But you know what? I'd probably just do a little quick 172 one and move on if that was the case. I suspect we're not going to go there. So I'm looking for some great ideas, but you guys are going to pick it, not me. It's going to be whoever's being supported the most by people saying, yeah, good idea. And then towards the end of the evening, we might give it a little bit of a vote if needs be, and a show of hands somehow. Not quite sure how we're going to do that, but we'll work something out. Right. Okay. So I'm going to carry on and have a look at the chat for a minute, and we'll see where we get up to. And I can answer any questions while we're on as well. So let's move back to where I was. Okay. By highlighting that one, that's sort of my start point. Right. Interesting idea, Steve Jones. What was that? An idea for a second group build would be in any kit that has a type of animal in its title. Okay, so there's an idea. If you've put an idea in the chat before that and I've missed it, just put it back in. That could be interesting because that could be a tiger or something like that, couldn't it? I'm surprised there is no more kit selection for modern 1350 ships like aircraft carriers. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I sort of agree. I sort of agree. Although, do modern ships look quite as attractive as older ones? I don't know. At the end of the day, model makers, manufacturers, they make what they think is going to sell. So yeah, it amazes me we've not got one of the new Queen Elizabeth class. But anyway, there we go. Hello, Flying Dutchman. How are we? Good to see you, buddy. Everyone's saying hello to Dave. Switch on, great to just switched on. Great to hear that Flower just started HMS Hood in 1200. Enjoy the Hood in 1200. I think it's probably the best of the Trumpeter 1200 kits, the Hood. Just because, well, actually, how it worked was they developed the 1700 kit first, and they worked very closely with the Hood Association to develop that. And that was a very accurate kit, probably the most accurate of all the Hood's Trumpeters done in different scales. Then they developed the 1350 using the knowledge of the 1700, basically scaled it up. Then in that time, we learned more about Hood, and there was a couple of minor little issues on the 1350. So there's a couple of bits missing that should have been there. And then when they came to do the 1200, the Hood Association got wind of it, reached out to him and said, look, we've learned some new stuff about it. And apparently Trumpeter were a bit, what do you mean it's different? It's been sunk for years. It can't be different. And they ignored them, which is why it's got paint instructions with red anti-fouling instead of grey. It's why they haven't corrected the walkway on the spotting top and various other little issues. But if you're building the 1200 Hood, David, then go and have a look at the Hood Association, because they've done a big write-up on all the changes needed to do it. So yeah, but it's a nice kit. It's a nice kit. Right. Where am I? Rodney. No. Okay. How about building anything from a specific year? Okay. That's a good idea, Jeff. We'd have to then pick a year. So I don't know. That could be interesting. There was someone. There was a channel did a build a bit like that, wasn't there? So had to be something during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II or something like that, which gave you loads of scope, really. Okay, cargo truck with cargo or towed cannon. Okay, yeah, okay. You could do both with that, couldn't you? You know, how about a color? My favorite color is yellow and difficult to paint. Okay, so you're gonna wish that upon us all. Yellow paint. Wow. But you could go with yellow paint as graffiti on something else, couldn't you? You could do a train and put some yellow graffiti on, maybe. But yeah, I like the idea of a color, because that can give you anything, can't it? Airliners built. I've got to be honest, airliners do nothing for me. Never have. And I don't know why, because there's such a huge variety with all the different liveries and stuff. But it's just a tube in it with some wheels and a couple of wings, and not much to them, I guess. But they've never captured my imagination. But that's what we're going to go for. That's what we'll go for. I'd have to try and build an airliner that I've been involved with. So I used to work for BA Systems, and I used to procure the fasteners for all the civil aircraft. So I could do a Queen's flight or something like that, possibly. Okay. Oh, we've got a bit of support for the animal idea. So yeah, we've captured that one. So we've got cargo truck, maybe towing something. We've got colour, got something with animal in the name. 80 years since VE Day, anything relating to 1945. So that's the other idea we're running with at the moment, which is name a year. So 1945, that gives you quite a wide scope, but it makes I suppose it doesn't have to make it military. Everyone thinks military when they think 1945, but you could do a diorama of a Bond Street or something, couldn't you? Or a tractor in a field from 1945, one of the mini art tractors or something like that. Let's see, shelf queens. Now that I think is quite a good idea, and I've got to be honest, James, I nearly went with that idea for a group build myself. But my channel theme next year, so this year's theme has been doing something different, and all year we've tried to do something a little bit different. We've done painting figures, which we've not done before. I can't remember off the top of my head. Oh, 1-200 ship. We've not done that before. All sorts of little things we've not done before. And next year, my theme is going to be shelf queens. So I have a plan to do some shelf queens, and most of those are actually ships, but not all of them. I've got a very old, I think it's Tacom. I might be wrong here, but I think it's an old Tacom road roller. So I've got that. It's from the 70s, I think. So I've got that to do as a shelf queen. I've got a Flower Class Corvette. I've got a 1-200 1902 Mikasa, which is half built. Beautiful that, because it's black hull and yellow upperworks. I've got a Cold War Royal Navy ship that's pretty much just needs railings on it. So we could probably do that in a couple of weeks anyway. But it's been sat there for a couple of years, waiting to be finished. So I do have some. I've also got the Merit 1350 Art Royal, which is a shelf queen, because I sort of started it. I put the whole hulls together and built one crane. So officially it's a shelf queen. So I've got bits and pieces. I've also got a desert diorama that's unfinished, which has got a number of Tamiya Chevys and bits and pieces like that in it. So yeah, there's all sorts of things that I could do on the shelf queen front. So I quite like that idea, James. I'm sure we've all got shelf queens that we need to have an excuse to build. What's Craig come up with? Oh, the 1945. Yeah, okay. Be a model subject of new technology or large development of the time. Yeah, could do. So we could pick a year and go technology, but there's got to be models of it, obviously. Most of us are building kits, not scratch building. And just as I say that, Phil comes up with, I'd like to tackle a scratch build model to make sure that beginners are included. We could say that up to 50% of the original parts from the kit could be included. What do you all think? Good question. What do you all think? Scratch building's not for everybody. It's almost an art form that's dying out in modeling, I think, and that's partly because models are better than they have ever been, but also the aftermarket has made it easy. So you can buy the aftermarket and just glue it on rather than fabricating the parts yourself. I remember Tamiya magazine used to be full of builds covered in bits of wire and white card and stuff, because people were scratch building all the details that weren't there. And now, of course, they're all Uh, so that might lend itself to doing classic kits. Maybe that's an idea. In fact, I'll put that in the mix. Classic kits. We could do a classic kit group build. So it's got to be a kit that's at least, I don't know, 20 years old, something like that, and which would lend itself to a little bit of scratch building and head scratching as well, most likely. Okay, James, what have you been drinking, mate? You absolutely are. You've been drinking that night nurse again or something, buddy. A banana build. Right. Okay. What else have we got? 100 years back, something from the 1920s, either built or scrapped in that period. Okay, so what would you do? 1920s. Cool. So you got aircraft. You could probably find some, but the interwar period is not massively covered. I've got my ferry flycatcher. We could perhaps build that. Yeah, don't know. I mean, obviously you've got some cars from the 1920s that there's kits of. Ships, you've got some liners that were in service in the 1920s, like you say, scrapped. So there's things that you could do. You'd have to put your thinking head on with that one, George. Okay, just reading through, trying to catch up or keep up. Cold, yeah. Oh well, yeah, cold. It probably would end up with a similar sort of result. Right. I have the spatial. Okay. Animal in the name is a good idea. Okay. So a number of people saying that. Very little choice of models, I think. The Flying Dutchman. I don't know what's that to. Space shuttle with its 747 transporter. That'd be a nice build, actually. Something that took part in a famous battle or engagement. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So again, that's really broad. So that could be any battle from, Culloden 1066. We could have some Viking figures or something like that. That would be fun. See what people come up with, famous battles. Yeah. And obviously, you've on the American side, you've got lots of Civil War opportunity if you did that. So you could do, there's a number of kits of Civil War artillery, American Civil War artillery out there, which are quite nice. So yeah, there's things with that. Yeah, the trouble with the HMS Warrior is I've got nowhere to put it when it's built until my kids leave home. So yeah, because it's I think it's 1.4 meters long. And once I get it down and start building it, I can't get it back in the attic. So yeah. Plus, it needs quite a bit of scratch building because there's quite a bit of detail missing from it. Let's see what else. Blimey, that needs revisiting, buddy, doesn't it? Okay. Echo Tango, hello, good evening. Wasn't that a film? Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Okay, what have we got? How about something from a TV show? Okay, you have, yeah, absolutely. I'm sure we could find a three-wheeled Reliant and do a trotter's van or something like that. I mean, TV shows give you lots of scope because there's loads of TV shows about the war, cold its and stuff like that. And then you've got other TV shows which give you all sorts of scope. So famous cars that are used. So you've got the Jaguar from that detective program that's name's escaping me, but you all know what I mean. Yeah, yeah, possible. What we'll do? What's the time? We've been on half an hour, blimey. In a minute, I'll say, right, everyone start repeating the one that you like the idea of the most. Not quite yet. Wait for me to catch up with the chat. Okay, what about anything that was made in the last 100 years gives massive range? That might even be too big a scope, maybe, because you're basically saying make any model. Because most people are sort of in that window with modeling. Thank you, Jeff. 36 watching, 27 likes. I wonder if a group build that had to be brush painted would be popular. Do you know what? Unfortunately, as much as I'd be up for it, I think it wouldn't be as popular as you think. But a classic kit idea, yeah. But we'll see what people think. Oh, well, that's yeah, at least, James. At least there's a good number still on the market from the 70s. Yeah. That's a good point, George. Right, I'm just going to make sure I've caught up with all the chat. Morse, that's right. Thank you, James. James, you know everything. I'm so glad that you're always on my chat, because when I can't think of something, you always know it. Thank you, my friend. Yeah, the Jaguar in Morse, and now you're going to tell me what type of Jaguar it was. I know you are. Right, Nelson. Right, so lots of people talking about Rodney and Nelson tonight. Vehicle animal that is famous for whom they carry. Monty's car, Haggis motorbike. You get my drift. Okay, a vehicle stroke animal that is famous for who they carried. Okay, so yeah, I mean, there's a number of things there, isn't there? There's a number of things you could do with that. Did they ever make a model of the Pope-mobile? Not sure. We got military aircraft in a civil scheme. Okay, right. So you've seen a number of ideas. So which is the idea you've seen and that you like the most, that you're most likely make you build a kit? Okay, so it's got to speak to as many people as possible, so we get loads of people joining the group build. So have a think, which one do you think you really deep down want to do? So there's a number of people who've repeated 2 or 3 of them, but let's see where we go. So bearing in mind that we've already got one group build running all year for something that floats, probably don't want to go anything up that's overlapping that idea, even though there's loads of scope that I've got hiccups. So have a think for a moment, and then let's start putting out what we think is the one we'd like to build. So I'm putting a marker on you, George, because that's when the chat starts going. That's where I'm going back to. I'm going to just sup my herbal tea for a minute. Okay. So we're going to try and narrow it down now and see what people think. Okay. Right. Okay. So someone's asked a question here, George. Not sure when Airfix call it a vintage classic. After 15 years is my understanding. So I think their rule of thumb is they'll put it in a red box until the tooling is 15 years old, and then after 15 years old, they'll put it back in its original release box or whatever. There has been in the past 1 or 2 exceptions to that, but that's sort of not what they're doing moving forward, if you like. I think some of the it's why they did a lot of work on the starter sets, because some of those were pretty old kits. So they did a lot of work over the last couple of years replacing those. But yeah, the rule of thumb is 15 years or more. But for me, I can, going back to the Graf Zeppelin that we reviewed last week, that's 7 years old already, and I would consider that a classic kit. I was getting kits as a kid that were already 20 years old. An Airfix figure, the Black Prince, made in the 50s, and I was getting in the 70s. So I think if we go vintage kit, we're meaning anything that's at least 20 years old from its original tooling date. So it could be a re-release that's less than 20 years old, but the tooling is 20 years old. So you could get the Airfix Mauritania that was re-released in the 90s with the hospital ship decals, and you could do that, but the tooling is 60s. So that would count if we were going to do that. So let's see. So we've got classic, color, classic, animal names, animal things, covers, planes, ships, and vehicles. Yep. So does that mean that you're going with animals then, Gary? Classic kit. Yeah, if we put a date on it, that's a good idea, because we can go, right, okay, kit tooling's got to be before such and such a date. Yeah. So we've got another animal names. Classic kit with animal names. That's mixing it up, isn't it? Animal names, classic kit. Vintage classic is pre-Hornbury, no cab tooling. Yeah, if we decide we're going to go with classic, we can decide amongst ourselves what that looks like, can't we? Famous vehicles. Oh, hello, by the way. Nice to see you. I don't think I'd seen you in the chat before then. That is that is very true. Yeah, so you'd have to be careful with the Revell kits, because quite often people don't know whether it's actually Revell or not. Yeah, but all their decent kits aren't, as a general rule. So I think there's a lot of people saying classic kits. Hello, Ron from Winnipeg. How are we? How's your weather? It must be starting to get a bit chilly down there this time of year, I would think. When does your snow start? Will that be next month? As you get into November, is that when you start getting snow? Anyway, good to see you, Ron. Thank you for joining the live stream. Have you got a view on what we should build on the channel as a group? So just for your information, if you finish your submarine during 2025, you'll be in the Things That Float group build if you want to share some pictures. So I think, as I'm looking at this, there's a lot of love for the idea of building a classic kit, but there's also quite a bit of love for animals. So right, okay, tell you what we're going to do. It looks like to me we've got two popular themes: animal names and classic kits. So I've got a question for you. Do we want to keep them separate and then decide which one of those we're going to, or do we want to combine them and go classic kit with an animal name in it? So yeah, it does limit you quite a bit if you put animal names in it, because there's not a lot springing to me. Obviously, the Germans name all their military vehicles after animals, and there might be some aircraft that are, but I can't think of much else off the top of my head. So my gut feel is we keep them separate and we vote for it. But if you want to do classic kits and it's got to have an animal theme, we could do that. So let's start with, should we combine them? Yes or no? Just simply put a yes or a no, and we'll have a quick head count to that. Right. Okay. So so should we combine them? Yes or no? I'll just count the yeses and nos. Oh, okay. This is. I'm gonna have to count fast, aren't I? This. Okay. So that's 2 no's, 2 yeses. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 no's, 3 yeses, 4 yeses. Well, I think that's quite resounding. We'll let it run for another moment, but I'm not getting any other comments, so it's a no, I think. Right, okay. So then let's have another little vote, shall we? So are we going to go for classic kits, or are we going to go for a build with an animal in its name? So just put down either classic or animal. Go. This is fun. We should do this more often. I don't mean group builds. There's only so much we can do. Okay. Right, let's see if I can keep count of this lot now. So classic 1, 2, animal names 1, classic 3, animal 2, classic 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, animal 4, classic 9, classic 10, classic 11, animal 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, you know what? We're drawing. We are drawing. I need somebody else who has not already said it to say it, so we can decide. Who's got a deciding vote? That's my last. That's my last one that I can see. So, Ron, did you vote? If you're still on, maybe you should decide. Cast the. Oh, and what have we got here? Put it up as a poll on the community tab. Classic. Okay. Hi, Paul. Good to see you. And hello, Simon. And thank you for that casting vote. It's closer than a US election, and an awful lot politer, I would say, as well. You know. So okay. We have gone with a group build of build a classic kit, but we still got some bits to define in there, haven't we? So what are we going to define as a classic kit? Do we want to pick a year? So and say it's got to be built before the year 2000 or a year, or are we going to say, right, the kit's got to be a certain age or older, or we could go with a kit that was manufactured in a certain decade. Though you've got to bear in mind, you've got to be able to find it, you know, either on eBay or somewhere, or have one in your stash. So classic kits we're going with, but how are we going to define it? Before we start voting on that, let's just see what people think. Should we go with a set year, or should we just pick a decade the kit was made, or say it's got to be made before a particular year? Don't know. What are people's thoughts? So, hi, Paul. Something that's older than me. Blimey, that's going back. That's when model kits were made of wood, and you had to basically whittle them yourself. That's So yeah, so anything before 1970 is what you're actually saying there, James. So that would give you the first couple of decades of plastic kits, wouldn't it? Before a year, pre-90s is about right. Yeah. So 80s or earlier, I guess you're saying. Before a year, 70s as a decade. Anything tooled more than 50 years ago. That's quite an old. That's quite old, I think. Pre-90s. Okay. The general consensus seems to be pick a decade and say it's got to be made before that. So yeah, or before a chosen year. Okay. Right then. This is true. I mean, what we don't want to do is limit ourselves to builds that are so frustrating people don't want to do it. But there seems to be a lot of love for old kits. So I think it's quite clear that we want to pick a decade and say the kit has to be made before the end of that decade. So we could say, if we were to say, right, it had to be made before the end of the 70s, then it could be from the 70s, the 60s, the 50s. If we said the 80s, then you've got 40 years pretty much that you can draw from. So let's do that. Let's pick a decade and say that a classic kit has to be of that decade or earlier. So the question now is what decade? There's a number of people that have said 90s. There's a few people that have said 2000s. There's a lot of dodgy kits in the 90s, though. I might go earlier than that and get a better one. Can we add photo etch? Yeah, we will get to rules in a minute. We'll get to rules in a minute, but yeah, of course, I think we can. We can discuss that. Right. Okay. Right. I'm just going back and seeing what people are saying. So 70s has got one. I didn't actually officially say, right, let's go. People have just started talking. So we've got 70s one, 90s one, 80s one, 90s two, 80s two, 80s three, 90s three, 70s two. How good's my memory? 90s four, 80s four, 90s five, 80s five, 70s two, three. Right, we're sort of between 90s and 80s. So, yeah, okay. So, listen, if we go for 90s or 80s, it covers off the 70s, doesn't it? And if we're saying it's a classic kit, you can pick one from the 70s and do that, even if other people are doing one from the 80s. So it's not limiting you. So because there's so many saying 90s and 80s, my gut feeling is we should say that the model had to be made before the end of, well, do we say the end of the 1990s or by the 1990s? Right. Okay. So we've got a choice then. So a classic kit that was built, that was tooled, sorry, doesn't have to be released, but tooled before the end of the 1980s. Would everyone be happy with that? Yes or no? Yeah, first tool release. Absolutely. So first tool release had to be before the end of the 1980s. Would people go with that as a group build? So we've got one yes. Oh, Hannah. Hello, Hannah. Nice to see you. Well, that's a resounding yes. You can put no if you'd prefer the no option, but everyone seems to be going yes. So there we go. I nearly read that as Willie Nelson. So, hello, good to see you. I thought I had a celebrity with me. Maybe I do. Okay. Thank you, Dave. We have our token no, just to make sure it was, fair. But listen, you can see in the chat, there's tons of people going with that. So our second group build is decided. That was easier than I thought it was going to be. So got to have been first tooled before the end of the 1980s. So that could be absolutely anything. You just go on the Airfix classic kits and pick yourself something, but be careful because some of them are dogs. Some of them are proper dogs. I don't know if they've got any Black Widows left, but avoid the Black Widow. It's an utter dog. Right. So we were asked the question: should we? Yeah, it will. Absolutely will. Although, just be careful because they do get it wrong from time to time. So there you go. It's Willie Nelson. There you go. Right. So we've picked the year. Someone asked the question. Sorry, I can't remember who it was. Oh, hello, Rusty. I've only just spotted you. Nice to see you. So, and Chopper's Model Works. Nice to see you as well. Right then, can we put aftermarket on? That's an interesting question because aftermarket is largely after the 1980s. You do get some photo etch in the back end of that period, but it really started to explode in the 90s, photo etch, for as my memory serves. So are we allowed to use photo etch? Because that is taking us out of the classic time period of the kit, isn't it? So what do people think? Should we be allowed to use aftermarket, or do any upgrades have to be limited to scratch building? What I don't want to do is make the specifications so tight that it puts people off. Right now, we've got build a classic kit, and I think that speaks to loads and loads of people quite clearly. But would it put people off if they weren't allowed to upgrade it? If I bought an Airfix 1600 ship that was tooled in the 50s and I wasn't allowed to put railings on, I might feel a bit miffed. So I don't know. What are people's thoughts? I'm open to ideas on this one. We will come to. I haven't decided on the timescale, Phil. The first group build is a year. I think a classic build, we don't need a year, so probably 6 months, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So don't know, do we? Should it be out of the box? Maybe. I think we should allow people to scratch build, because that allows you to improve details. I wouldn't want to limit people from scratch building, but that is effectively straight out of the box, isn't it? I don't know. That's a good thought. I hadn't thought about aftermarket decals. So we've got a no to photo etch, but scratch building only. I think that makes that interesting. Yeah, I agree. And there's simple things like removing the molded on cabling or something like that and putting your own wire in so it looks better. That's scratch building and simple enough. Improve the kit as much as you want. Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. I totally get that. Out of the box. I mean, ultimately, if we decide it's up to you, then that gives everyone free reign, doesn't it? But there's a lot of people saying no photo etch. Oh, Hello, by the way. I don't think I've said hello to you. There's more people joining all the time. Could someone give me a view of how many people we've got watching and how many likes we've had? If you like the idea of the second group build, do hit the like button. It means lots of people will see it. Looks like someone's decided what they're doing already. So I think we should be flexible, but encourage each other to share our experience and tips to produce results that we could have achieved. Could oh, okay, yeah, get that. There's a lot of people saying, thank you. A lot of people saying something along the lines of no photo etch. No scratch up here, just plastic in the box. Hi, John. Nice to see you. Right. My gut feeling is that most people are saying no photo etch, but they're okay with scratch building. So I tell you what we'll do to make it interesting. You can't use any aftermarket, and you can tell me in a minute whether you think I'm barking up the wrong tree or not. How about we do a classic kit that has to be originally tooled before the end of the 1980s, and you can only use aftermarket on it that was available before the end of the 1980s, which pretty much removes all your photo etch, to be quite honest, and leaves you with scratch building. Yeah, I think that could be interesting. I think that could be a challenge. Then you are limiting your model building experience to the late 1980s, as sophisticated as you could get with building that model. So that doesn't limit you from scratch building, but I don't know what people think about that, because there is aftermarket decals, which are obviously you're going to want newer ones than that. So, and we don't want to make the specification of the build too complicated. So we could go that route. That's one idea, or we could just go with what a lot of people are saying, which is you can scratch build but no photo etch. In which case, I think aftermarket decals, especially for classic kits where decals might have perished anyway, I think that will be acceptable. So which way do we go? Do we keep it in period and say you're limited to the materials that were available by the end of the 80s, with the exception of aftermarket decals, or do we just say no photo etch, full stop? Let me know. I'm going to go back and see what people are saying. A lot of people are saying hi, John. And masking sets. Yeah, I mean, could you get masking sets in the 1980s? Remind me. I don't remember masking sets in the 1980s, but I might be wrong. I wasn't really building aircraft then. I was building a lot of armored fighting vehicles, so I probably wasn't encountering the possibility of those at that point. Thank you. I try my best. After decals are as older decals may be impossible to use. Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah. Hiya, Pete. Pete the Hawk. Nice to see you. Yeah, so would I. The trouble is, I have to buy the kits to review them, and the channel funds only extend so far. So I tend to not buy the same kit to be able to compare them. I have the Victory Lady Nelson kit, and what I can say is it's a very, very nice kit. But if you're a beginner, that's going to go together better and easier for you, and is more intuitive. But yeah, wooden kits are so expensive, it's difficult. It's not like getting the Airfix Tamiya Revell 148 ME 109 and comparing them. Easy to do. With wooden ships, it's a real challenge. And I've just cut a deal. I know what I said yesterday in Table Talk, but I've just cut a deal with Vanguard Models, and he's going to ship me all of his kits so I can review them, and then I'm going to send them back to him. So that's the only way I can get hold of all that volume of wooden kits and do them any justice and review them. But we digress a little bit. Let's see what else people are saying. What if the decals are shot? Aftermarket decals need to be a bit newer than the 80s. Yeah, no, I agree. I think aftermarket decals are acceptable, whatever we decide. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sort of thinking that. It's just how we limit it. Oh, that's a really interesting question, Jeff. What do people think? Is that scratch building? Because yeah, I guess you've got a design from scratch and then print it. My problem is, could you 3D print, or potentially you could 3D print a whole new wing for it, or new wheels for it, or something like that, which sort of then takes us away from what we're trying to achieve. I wouldn't want to take your ability to spend time designing something for the model away from you. So I don't know. What do people think? My gut feel is no, Jeff, to be honest. But let's see what the people think. Most people seem to be saying no aftermarket. Blue Peter badge scratch building using materials before the end of the 80s. Yeah, I quite like that idea. Let's say, yeah, you've got a model within that period. Most of us, I suspect, were building models then. Okay, we've got about 20 minutes to wrap this up. The Blue Peter Tracy Island. Yeah. I never made that, but I certainly saw it. Right, what's problem barring any post 80 improvement products is that beginners may not have the knowledge to be sure of what it excludes. Simple keeping to a bar on photo etch will be easier to understand. You know what? That's a really good point, Phil, actually. See you, Joe. Thank you for joining. Right. Okay. I think the consensus is George. Thank you very, very much for the donation. That's greatly appreciated. In the super chat there. Thank you very much. Yep. It's an yeah. I think you're looking out there, Jeff. To be honest, you perhaps should have kept that under your hat and just done it, on the lowdown. But right, okay. So I think decisions made. So we are going to build a classic kit that has to be originally tooled from no later than the end of the 1980s. So that was the 31st of December 1989. That's your cut-off date. Yeah. So if it was tooled on the 1st of January 1990, can't be in. So that's our cut-off date. You can build straight out of the box. You can make modifications to it by scratch building, but no photo etch. You can, however, use aftermarket decals that are as new as you like, because old ones may have perished, and you might want to do something a little bit different. So let's not limit our creativity. So I think that's what we've gone. So the last thing we've got to decide is how long do we need to do it? Bearing in mind that we've got another group build running for a whole year. How long do people need to build a classic kit? Now, just be careful here, because lots of people, when we did the B17 build, and I gave you 4 months for that, went, oh yeah, I'm going to build 2. And there's a lot of people that didn't manage to finish it because best laid plans and all that. You look at it and go, yeah, breaking that down, I could get that done in 5 months, no problem, at my usual speed. And then something comes along, something gets in the way, life happens, to coin a phrase, Ron, and suddenly your 5-month build took 9 months. So my question to you is, how long? Are we going with 6 months or are we going with 9 months? So just give me a 6 or a 9. I can see that 1 or 2 people are already saying. So there we go. Sticky back plastic. Yeah. No, not limited to a manufacturer. Any kit from any manufacturer you like. So you could get one of the old ship kits. I'm trying to think of the name. They used to do the tall ships, and they stopped trading in the early 70s. Forgotten the name, but yeah, you've got loads of options. So no manufacturer specifics. Well, I think we'll kick it off in the spring because that's when people stop modeling. So it'll be really tough for them. No, I don't know. We'll think about that in a minute. 6 months, 6 months, March to September sounds good. 6 months, March to September, March. So that's, 6 months. There's a couple of people saying 9 months. 6 or more. 6. So people thinking 6 is a minimum then maybe. Yeah. 6, 9, 6, 6, 6. There's a lot of people saying 6 months. But how many of you stop modeling in the summer? Because what I've got to think about is the fact that a lot of people get busy in the summer. They go on summer holidays. They start doing stuff in the garden, renovating the outside of the house, all that sort of stuff, and don't do anything for 6 or 8 weeks in the summer. So that's 2 months out of there. So I think, yeah, it could be. That's not the brand I was thinking of. It'll come to me probably once we're no longer on air. March to September has some holidays in it, then people get idle. Yeah. Well, yeah, you're going to have to choose wisely. The reason why we're not going to start the group build now is because I've got too much on and it would mean me abandoning some of the stuff. So it gives me an opportunity. So I'm thinking, right, okay. If we started it in March, which a lot of people seem to be agreeing with, that gives me time to finish the tempo build, get stuck into the Eagle March, April, May. So I'll perhaps do a classic kit after the tempo. March, April, May, June, September, October. How about then, just to allow a little bit of wriggle room in the summer, we say 7 months from March, which gives people a little bit of space. So you're aiming at doing a 6 months build, but we put the extra 4 weeks on because there's always, when I say, right, that's the end date. There's always somebody that goes, oh, I've just got to finish painting it. So if you don't get it done in time, we can always capture it at the end of the year roundup. But I think with people doing a build, doing 2 group builds on the channel, and some people like to get involved in other people's group builds as well, I think that's probably a fair shout. So, right, let's do that then. So, we have decided. Thank you very much. This is the last action from the 10K takeover, and you've absolutely influenced what 2025 is going to look like. So, we're going to start the new year in January with the first group build, Things That Float, and that will run until the middle of December 2025. And as long as it's got some relationship that is obvious to being able to float, whether that be a diorama or a piece of equipment that clearly floats, whatever it is, that's acceptable. So that's the first one. Then in March, we will kick off the second group build, which will be classic kits made or tooled and originally released before the 31st of December 1989. And you won't be able to use photo etch, but you will be able to use aftermarket decals of any age, and we will run it for 7 months. Job done. Thank you very much, everyone. So are we all happy? There you go. Yeah, you could have. You absolutely could have, Jeff. You could have. Right. So I think a big thank you to all of you for taking part tonight, getting involved, helping shape the channel. You're all part of the Model Kit Stuff family. I am so excited to see what you guys come up with, because I know that bubbling away, there's loads and loads of ideas there. I've got 1 or 2 classic kits in my stash. I mean, I've got a Matchbox kit that's a seaplane. I could build that and it'd cover both of those group builds, wouldn't it? So yeah, and I think, just to be clear, when we launch it, I will redo the instructions, but we're not going to limit you to brand or anything like that. So just have fun with it. So now's the time to start going through your stash and start thinking about what have you got that floats and what have you got that fits the criteria of a pre-80s kit, and get on Scale Mates and double check your information, and then away we go. So we're going to have such a wide variety of kits because we've left it so open. We're going to have aircraft, we're going to have vehicles, we're going to have dioramas. I know we're going to see some ships, and seeing some ships in a group build next year really excites me. So just to remind you, the first group build, you've got to complete the build in 2025, but you don't have to have started it in 2025. So you can get that 40-year-old Shelf Queen and finish it off and pop that in there. But you are going to have to start the second group build on the 1st of March. You won't be able to start the kit before that. So no Shelf Queens. It's going to be something that you're opening the box and starting afresh and getting stuck into. Scale doesn't matter. Subject doesn't matter. We're just going to have a load of fun with it. And I cannot wait to see your builds. We'll do a showcase at the end of both of those. So brilliant. Thank you so much. I'm just going to read the chat for a minute, and then we've got about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to switch off. So if you've got any questions or anything like that, now's the time to be asking. I think some people are dropping off now anyway. Right, where did I've missed something that James said again? Good. Good. People are happy. That's all good. Yeah. Guess what I'm doing in a minute? I would never twist your arm, but it does sound like a good thing to do. Yep, and you can put as many entries in as you like, Gary. So build them all. Build them all. Clear some space so you can get some more kits. You know what? I've never seen that kit. That's interesting because I've got his new tool one on pre-order. Right, people are starting to disappear. So, okay. Yeah, we did. We did. We decided a lot of stuff in a short time. So, do you know what, guys? I'm going to call it a night because people are starting to go anyway. And we've done what we set out to do, which was pick the group builds. So, we've got 2 group builds coming up next year. So, that'll be a lot of fun. So, thank you so much for getting involved. Have a great evening. Have a great week. You enjoy your modeling, and I will see you very, very soon. I am back tomorrow with episode 20 of the Amatis Endeavour. And I couldn't remember yesterday what we were going to be doing, but it's things like the ship's wheel and the compass and a load of metal fittings that need painting. So I will see you on that video tomorrow. I'll look out for your comments. You guys get trawling through your stash and planning for next year. And I will see you very soon. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all the support. Bye for now.